Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today is going to be a nice short video on the Ford mower. In this video, I'm going to start work on the wiring and install some front axle stops. Alright, so I've got a good start to the wiring here. Down here I've just got the starter solenoid, so this is just a big wire coming from the positive terminal, another big wire there going to the starter, a little wire going to ground, and a couple other wires here going to the push button starter, which will be mounted right here on the dash. That'll be to start it there. And the other thing I have over here is I have two wires coming up from the engine. One of these here, the yellow one I believe, is for the kill switch. So I'll wire that into just a regular toggle switch, kind of like this, which will also be up there in the dashboard. And the red wire there is for the fuel solenoid, which is this thing here on the bottom of the carburetor, which I pointed out, I believe, in the last video. Now, what that does is when there's current going to it, it lets fuel up from the bowl up into the jet. And when there's no current to it, it blocks it off, which prevents fuel from going into the engine. Now, I know people are going to tell me to just completely remove that because you don't need that at all. And I have done that with other engines. I did that for the first engine over here that I had on the tank. When I was working on the tank, that was the first engine I had on there, and I did remove that solenoid. I didn't have a problem with it. But with this engine, when I first got this several months ago, and I was first getting it running, I went ahead and I deactivated that solenoid there, and what it did was it flooded the intake with fuel. This just let a whole bunch of fuel up into the carburetor there, and it flooded the intake, and there was gas coming up out here. So I don't really know what's different about this engine than those other ones, but once I get everything hooked up, like the fuel line and that sort of stuff, I'll test that again to make sure it actually is like that. And if I can remove it, I will. I'll test that before I cut a hole in the dashboard, obviously. So it'd be nice if I can remove that. But if I can't, then it's really no big deal. I'll have to have two switches on there, one for the kill switch and one for the gas. But it's a pretty simple wiring setup. I'm not using an old wiring harness from another riding lawnmower, so it's pretty simple. Now, the other thing you saw me do there was install some of these front axle stoppers there on each side here. Now, the reason for those is because if you're, say, driving along a trail or something and one of your front tires catches a tree, it's going to force your steering over to one side all of a sudden like that. And without those stoppers on there, there's nothing to prevent these axles from really torquing down onto one direction. And what that will do is put all that force onto your steering linkage right here, and probably end up breaking your steering linkage, or at least bending it, which will obviously be a big issue when you're out on the trails and don't really have anything to fix that. But with those stoppers in there, if you do hit a tree or something and it forces your steering over, it just stops right there and hits your axle, and you don't have all that stress going to your steering linkage. So that's it for this video. In the next video, you will see me put the wheels on. I should be getting those in pretty soon, definitely in time for the next video. And hopefully I can get this thing sitting on the ground by itself. And then after I get that done, I've also ordered some toggle switches, because this one you can see is really old and kind of not that good anymore. So I've got some new toggle switches coming in for the dashboard. I'll get that all wired up, get the steering wheel in and the wheels, and then we won't be too far off from a test drive. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.